What is going on, guys? We are back with another video today, and we are doing an experiment on Madden 22. It's not really as much of an experiment as it technically is more of a reflection. These types of videos, these types of, kind of things to do are always super fun because, you get to look back and see how much someone sold or how much someone did really well. Obviously, there's going to be some players that are not even first-rounders that are going in the first round in this one. Obviously, especially Raiders, and the Raiders fans, they know that there's some players that they would like to redo on, whether it's, their fault or not. Anything can happen. And boy, anything happened for those Raiders first-round draft picks. But if you guys enjoy this, obviously it's early, so maybe you have to wait a little bit into the video. You guys want to see more of these, we can do 2019, 2018, 2017, all, whatever. Maybe leave a like, maybe subscribe. Let me know in the comment section below. Also, what, I made a mistake on, because obviously they're not all going to be perfect. There's going to be some in here that are controversial, some that are like, oh, that doesn't make any sense. You got to let me know. Simply put, you got to let me know. And, yeah, I feel pretty good about this list that I have, and obviously it is a little early. It's 2020. So it's, a lot of these guys could look really good. Like Justin Jefferson could just fall off completely or something, and T. Higgins is like the greatest wide receiver of the class. Who freaking knows? I don't know. Not that T. Higgins has played poorly or anything. Like, just relax. Before the first one, we are actually going to be changing nothing. Joe Burrow is going to stay with the Bengals. Is he better than Herbert? I mean, I can't really tell. They both look pretty good. It's worked out. So when you're redoing a pick, it's got to be a clear-cut better selection. I can't say it is, so realistically, Joe Burrow stays on the Bengals. Let me know what you guys think. Obviously, he played all right in his rookie year. Seems to be playing pretty damn well here in year two, and, everyone was all crying about the offensive line. I was also one of them, but, I mean, they've been able to keep Burrow upright enough, right? Jamar Chase and him have been really good together, so, I mean, this is the right pick, simply put. For pick 2... Chase Young, obviously a very good player. Can easily see him being worth the pick at number 2 yet again. But you can't deny the most important position in football, the punter, Tress Way. Of course, the quarterback spot, Justin Herbert, is pick number 2 in this redo. Obviously, he's played really, really well. The receiving options and all that, I mean, it's not too far off of what he already has in LA. So, I mean, you can almost debate that they're almost 1-for-1. Eckler's a little bit better for a receiving back, but Antonio Gibson's a pretty decent running back as well when healthy. And obviously, a bit better of a defense, a little more consistent of a defense, I would say. And the easy number 2 choice, I think so far, outside of maybe Herbert going 1, Burrow number 2, I think everyone would agree with this so far. And then with number 3, this is where it actually kind of gets to be kind of debatable, right? It's Detroit after all, but you do have to remember that it's 2020 Detroit, a decent season for Stafford, where I believe he didn't play the full season. He was out a couple of weeks, I believe. Didn't know he was going to request a trade, so you're thinking quarterback's probably fine for some years in the future. And pick 3 for Detroit is got to be a pass rusher. It's Chase Young. He's the 3rd highest rated player on their team now. He obviously looks insane. This is an absolute steal. The verdict's still out on Okuda, but this is obviously the choice. If you're Detroit, you would love to have this swapped. And, Chase Young is obviously a very good player. How would he play without the great surrounding talent that he has in Washington? I don't know. But obviously lacking quite a bit here. At first, I actually had this as Burrow stays with the Bengals. I had Washington taking Young again, and then I had the Lions with Wirfs. But then I was like, wait a minute, Washington quarterback? Clearly they need one. Even now, I kind of debate why they wouldn't have taken one, but fair enough, I suppose. And then, number 3, Chase Young. So then the 4th one, the Giants. They actually sold on their own, which the Giants do all the time. They had the choice between the 2 other tackles that are and have been playing better, and they decided to take Andrew Thomas anyways. But of course, the pick, no-brainer for New York, is Tristan Wirfs. Maybe you argue Tua, maybe, but overall, I think Tristan Wirfs is the clear-cut choice. You still believe in Daniel Jones for another year or two. and obviously he was by far the best offensive lineman in that class, looking like a top tackle literally right out the gates. The Pro Bowls don't really mean a lot, but it does when, he's involved, especially as a rookie. Really good stuff, and the number 1 overall rated player on their team, let alone, youngsters. And now, once again, we move on to the Dolphins, another debatable team, because, quarterback's the most important position, and this and that, but the verdict's still out on Tua. I don't know if I believe in Tua. Maybe I'm just a Tua hater at this point. But I'm going to go Mekhi Becton. He's been a pretty good anchor for the Jets. Offensive lineman, you look like such a genius trading Tunsil for a bunch of stuff and still landing a franchise tackle in the process. I think he's just a clear-cut great choice. And, Jacoby Brissett has looked pretty good. I don't know what the situation was in 2020. They could have gotten any quarterback pretty much, but I don't know if Tua is it. I think Mekhi Becton's ceiling is a bit higher, so realistically, I think this is the choice. Now the Chargers, who got cucked out of a decent offensive lineman here. They got cucked out of their own quarterback, Herbert. This one's going to be kind of just process of elimination. Obviously, the Chargers have a very talented roster top to bottom. Their need is quarterback. The best available is technically Tua. So they're going to end up taking Tua, obviously, instead of Justin Herbert here. I think it just makes sense. Would he play better in a way better situation in LA? I would assume so. Maybe he doesn't get injured as much. Sorry about the jersey numbers, but I couldn't be bothered. I'll be honest, I completely forgot about them. I just assumed they were going to be right, but that's not how it works. But Tua at number 6 over Justin Herbert, not by choice. You could have made an argument for, anyone here. You could have made Simmons, Justin Jefferson perhaps, someone else, but quarterback was by far their biggest need with Phillip Rivers leaving to retirement. This is the best choice at quarterback. And now we move on to the Panthers, a very interesting team because they had a lot of needs. Cornerback, DT, linebacker, wide receiver, QB. There's so many things that Carolina needed. But honestly, I think I'm just going to say they got the pick right. Derek Brown's been pretty solid. And obviously that's been a position that they've prioritized over the years a lot. And obviously ever since Kawan Short has kind of regressed into retirement, basically, they've been needing that position quite a bit. I think Derek Brown is the correct call. I think they made the right one. Now we move on to the Cardinals. This was would have been one of the top choices for Justin Jefferson, but it's not. As of course they had Hopkins at the time. They still had Kirk. I don't think it was the number 1 need on the list, and everyone kind of thought Justin Jefferson would have been a late first. Obviously, this is an after the fact, so we know that he's not a late first. He's top 10, top 15 at worst. But I think, once again, the biggest need on this team was kind of safety, definitely linebacker. And Simmons has kind of picked it up a little bit lately. I still think it's Isaiah Simmons. I think they made a good call, and overall, I'm just going to say that they went with him again. I had a choice maybe of Jonathan Taylor, but I never really felt like Arizona really prioritized running back that much, even though I feel like Jonathan Taylor would be like the perfect fit. Literally gives me prime David Johnson vibes. But I'm going to say Simmons. There's, once again, a lot of choices here, but I think by need and by skill, I think it's a fair selection. And now, before anyone gets mad at me, yes, this one is Justin Jefferson. The Jaguars have needed wide receiver talent since, really, Allen Robinson left, or not even Allen Robinson left. The year Allen Robinson got ended for a season injury, obviously Justin Jefferson becomes their number 1 player overall, let alone target. Obviously, now fast forward, they have Trevor Lawrence, so give him another weapon. Obviously, their real selection was a complete bust for them, which was C.J. Henderson at pick 9. So this is a much better choice. And obviously, he's playing pretty well in Minnesota. Assuming it's not the Adam Thielen effect, he could put up even crazier numbers, which, considering how well he's been playing, is insane to think. And now we're on to the Browns, a team that had the craziest glow up ever, went from 0-16 prospect every year to by far the best team on Madden, super stacked. Once again, I'm going to say that this team got the correct call. Jedrick Wills has been pretty solid. It has been and is by far their biggest need. There's really not much more you could argue. Maybe a DT, maybe a linebacker, but you can't put a value on a tackle higher than those other positions we just listed. And, at the time, Odell Beckham was there, so, you had high hopes for him. Realistically, it was by far their biggest need, and once again, Wills is a pretty damn good player, so we're going to say that Jedrick Wills is the correct choice. We now move on to pick 11, where the Jets did a pretty good job taking Mekhi Becton, but unfortunately, he is gone. He went all the way up to, pick 5, I believe, with the Dolphins. Instead, they get a weapon for the receiving group in CeeDee Lamb. I think this is a very smart call. I think a lot of teams, a lot of teams thought that maybe that would have been where he would have went, or even a pick after to the Raiders. But ultimately, CeeDee Lamb is going to go here to the Jets, and it's huge because once again, the Jets, they seem to never have great weapons, and when they do seem to ruin them. But I think CeeDee Lamb could become that number one there, kind of like Robbie Anderson, kind of like the Robbie Anderson overall type, 87-88, which is obviously a great choice. Now we're on to the Raiders, their first of 2 selections. This is where I really thought maybe A.J. Terrell, because he's actually come on really strong lately. They needed cornerback, but if the choice was Ruggs, I think with Jerry Jeudy being there, that would have been the choice. So Jerry Jeudy to the Raiders instead of Henry Ruggs, who's obviously all over the news lately. A pretty solid wide receiver. I will say, though, the surrounding talent's not that great, but a way better quarterback situation. Does have Waller, I suppose. Good running back. So, not as great of a wide receiver room, but definitely a better overall team and overall situation. So, I think he would actually strive a little bit better as well. And a pretty good selection. Once again, there's a couple of choices here that they could have went with, but I felt like that makes the most sense based on positional need and talent. Now for the Buccaneers, who obviously took a gem and a half with Wirfs, do not have that option anymore. But I still think, unless it's a trade down from Tampa, which I didn't want to do for this sake because it just gets too messy, I think that Tampa would have still went the route of O-linemen because it just seemed like they were looking to, protect Tom Brady as much as possible. And I think Michael Onwenu, or apparently it's Mike Onwenu now, is going to be the choice. I don't know if they would have had the ability to move anyone around, but best available lineman by far, and that was going to be the choice. Maybe they could have went with A.J. Terrell. Maybe they would have went with Jonathan Taylor even. Or once again, they could have went with Winfield. Trade down, whatever, but I think this is the best choice because, once again, it just seemed like it was obvious that it was going to be a lineman at pick 13 for Tampa, and obviously they just absolutely nailed it. Now, for the Niners, instead of Kinlaw, which, honestly, you look at his overall, his 76 overall, not really that huge of an impact here, they get a much better choice, the Niners that is, and they get A.J. Terrell, a hugely up-and-coming cornerback in this league, and of course, just based on ratings, youth and all that, he looks really good, 84 man, 85 zone, 92 speed, 91 excel, 22 years old, 6'1", and obviously just a huge need for San Fran. Look at this, Verrett's out for the season in real life. This group is rough. A.J. Terrell at least helps a lot. This is kind of like Jalen Johnson for the Bears, but a bit better. Kind of just carrying the entire unit here. And obviously, over Kinlaw, it's definitely a win of a choice. And now we move on to Denver, who could have maybe went Jordan Love or Hurts or something like that. From what we've seen recently of Love and Hurts, probably not the choices. Instead, we went with a position that they've kind of filled with a new player almost every season, it seems, and that's going to be Jonathan Taylor, and obviously great looking running back so far, and just an all-down great player that's just going to make it so much easier on the quarterbacks there. And I have to say quarterbacks, you just never know who the damn quarterback's going to be week to week. Jonathan Taylor, clear-cut, the best choice here, and you could have maybe even had him going earlier to even the Niners. Like I said, the Buccaneers would have been a great choice. The Jets, perhaps. The Cardinals. I would have had him going all the way up to maybe even the freaking Dolphins, knowing what we know. But yeah, I think Buccaneers to the Broncos is the lowest I would ever let go. And the Falcons are kind of mad because they could have had him one pick later. Which, speaking of those Falcons, they don't get A.J. Terrell, but they get another pretty good up-and-coming corner, and that is the Bears' Jalen Johnson, a solid-looking outside corner as well. Maybe not as good as A.J. Terrell, but has showed some pretty good stuff in his short time with Chicago. Of course, it helps having the defensive scheme that they have and the surrounding talent, but obviously a good choice as well. I'm trying to speed this thing up a little bit because I'm kind of taking a bit. This one's probably going to be the most controversial of them all. This one is the Cowboys taking Trayvon Diggs. I know the interceptions and all that are super overrated. He gets burned in coverage a lot, makes up for it with a pick or two here or there, but still a decent enough corner to where they actually reach and take him in the first round. You got to remember, once again, their cornerback position is desperate. It was desperate, and obviously this is a good immediate start for them. And now with the Dolphins, we have Jeremy Chin. I know you have Winfield there, but I think that the Dolphins, with the selection of Holland, kind of proves that they kind of wanted a bigger guy. Jeremy Chin is that bigger guy, 6'3", 221, could come down to the box if you want. He's just a great player, obviously, and just a guy that can get the ball for you. I'm not sure how he can play in real life or how he's played in real life, but that's just the kind of stuff you would expect him to bring to your team. Of course, with a great DB set already, this would be easily the scariest defensive backfield in the entire league, and I think best available-wise, it's easily the best choice. And now we move on to the team that we are, and this one would kind of maybe be considered yet another kind of bust choice, but based on what they need, based on projections, and based on still looking decent, it's going to be Kinlaw for the Raiders. They've been desperately looking for a DT. This is another team that kind of seems to be grabbing old DTs left and right. They come in the lineup, they don't do well, they leave, this, that, and the other thing. You have a young guy in Kinlaw to develop. Obviously a high projected player, went way above this in the actual draft. And I think the Raiders still come away with a better choice than Damon Arnett. And now we have the Jaguars, who have stayed winning in this experiment. They're going to be the ones to get Antoine Winfield, absolutely needing safeties. Really kind of looking like a safety group that is similar to Tampa. And obviously Antoine Winfield is just a great instinctive player. If they really wanted to, they could probably move him to cornerback, which, they obviously love cornerbacks, but can't seem to draft them super well. They've had some issues with that, but Antoine Winfield, great choice. Then we move on to the Eagles, who obviously took Jalen Reagor. We're going to have them taking Patrick Queen, of course, an up-and-down type of player, suspect at times, great at others. I think this is a pretty, I wouldn't say an Eagle-y pick, because the Eagles kind of take, they're kind of similar to the Green Bay Packers. The straight-up, obvious choice is staring you right in the face, and you go outside the box. Also, the Giants are supposed to do that. And this time, instead of going Jalen Reagor, who's still, the verdict's still out, they go Patrick Queen. Also, the verdict's still out, but a more immediate need, I guess, because once again, wide receiver, they really are a dime a dozen, but these type of, basically a defensive quarterback, it's not easy to get them, but I suppose Philly hasn't really valued that too much, but overall, I think it's about a similar pick, but I think that's the better pick, I suppose. And I know a lot of Eagles fans during draft night definitely wanted that to be the case. And now for the Vikings, who lost out on Winfield. They would have had him there, and I think they would have taken him, considering all the players being gone. This one's going to be a debatable one, but because of their need on the offensive line and having so much of a need, we're going to actually have them taking Cesar Ruiz. I know this is probably the most debatable one out of all of them, outside of maybe Trayvon Diggs, but a guy that was touted as a guy that you can move all around the offensive line. Offensive line is still an issue for Minnesota, and definitely was in 2020. And instead of taking Justin Jefferson, who they didn't have a chance at, they ended up taking an offensive lineman who, once again, the verdict's still out about it. I will say this is probably the worst selection of all the players, but once again, we're getting to the later portion of the first round, and considering the 2020 draft only just happened, what can you tell me, right? All these players could all suck in the end. Who knows? And then we move on to the Chargers. We're going to have them keeping Kenneth Murray, a huge need, a guy that's, been consistently good. Still some time to develop, obviously. Super young. Once again, this is 2020, and it's 2021 now in real life, obviously. But I think that's the right choice for sure. You could have made the argument that the Eagles would have taken Patrick Queen, but I think Patrick Queen he wasn't the bigger name. I think Kenneth Murray actually did kind of jump up the board a little bit earlier, or right at the end he jumped up a little bit. So maybe you can interchange Murray and Patrick Queen, but once again, it's the Eagles. So if they're locked in at middle linebacker and everyone thinks Kenneth Murray's better than Queen, they would have definitely taken Queen. That's simply how it works for the Eagles. But Chargers, they keep Murray. Simply put. Now we move on to the Saints. The Saints had Cesar Ruiz, which is kind of a meh pick. This one is going to be Chase Claypool. Where the hell is he? Of course, a guy you can argue could have moved up. I mean, could have been the pick for the, what is it called? Who took freaking Judy in this one? It could have been the pick for the Raiders. Could have been the pick for many different teams. But overall, this is the pick for the Saints. Ever since Michael Thomas has been super injury prone, they've needed wide receiver help majorly. And obviously, once Michael Thomas returns, him and Claypool together, that's a tough duo to stop. A better choice than Ruiz for sure. And now we move on to two other wide receivers back-to-back. Maybe you can guess them, maybe you can't. The Niners take Michael Pittman. Obviously, Ayuk, he's actually pretty talented. He's just really not getting his chance in the offense. So maybe that could have still been the choice. I didn't actually, I didn't absolutely hate it. As a Packers fan, I did because he was one pick before us, and we traded up, I suppose, but that's who I wanted. But Michael Pittman, a bigger body, which outside of Kittle, they don't really have, specifically the wide receiver position, a guy that's been, once again, another up-and-coming player, good jump ball player, and ultimately a pretty good choice. Him and Ayuk, similar, but I suppose Pittman showed a little bit more to us so far in real life. And now the Packers kind of getting screwed. I would have loved Pittman on the Packers, but instead it's going to be T. Higgins. No, I do not have them taking Jordan Love. Jordan Love, fair enough, whatever. Maybe he's good, maybe he's not. We'll see, time will tell. But just the whole situation with Rodgers, it avoids that bullet completely. You can't argue it's a talented player. It's a wide receiver. That's what he's wanted. Kind of Alan Lazard-like, but definitely a bit better as a route runner and obviously a more secure catcher. And he now number 2 wide receiver on the Packers roster. Nothing really to say here. A lot of these players are going to be kind of boring and super late. Maybe not super great in talent either. Now we move on to the last couple of teams. The Seahawks. We say that they got it right with Mr. Jordan Brooks. A guy that kind of had a little bit of a slow start, but has looked decent enough. And obviously we're really late in the first round. Once again, you could make the argument that the Eagles could have taken him instead or Kenneth Murray. But we're going to keep him with Seattle. Now we have the Ravens. Once again, best available is kind of the choice here. You can maybe argued Dobbins at this pick instead of the second round. Obviously, they got a pretty good steal with him. But we're going to say Justin Blackmon here. Just an overall good player. I can't remember when they got Elliott. Was he drafted by them? I swear he was a different team's player. Maybe not, but best available choice, Julian Blackmon, simply put. Then you have the Titans, who obviously took Isaiah Wilson, not the greatest choice in the world. And instead, this time, they get Damian Lewis, just a lineman, simply put. They need a lineman, specifically tackle, obviously. It didn't work out. They're just going to take the best available lineman here. Then we move on to the Dolphins, who don't really need a number 1 corner. Based on what was available, maybe running back Dobbins could have been the better choice, but I'm going to have them keeping Noah Igbenogany. I think he's a really good number 3. That's what they valued, and they now once again solidify the DB group. I think if I could redo this, I would probably maybe have them taking whatever a best available lineman there was, which, to be honest, there really wasn't anyone that great. And then obviously they also got Becton. I think maybe if I redid this, it would probably be running back, but they obviously like Myles Gaskin a lot, and Ahmed's not bad, so I don't know. Maybe, no, actually, you know what? I'm going to redo this pick. This is Jordan Love. This is absolutely Jordan Love. They would definitely take Jordan Love. Screw this Noah Igbenogany guy. So Jordan Love out the gate, that would be a disastrous situation, but once again, young, so maybe time to develop. Absolutely going to be taking a pounding before that happens, though. So Jordan Love is the choice. Now down to the final 2 teams here, Minnesota and Kansas City. And for Minnesota, I have them taking an upgrade at corner, L'Jarius Sneed, a guy that has been, good enough for the Chiefs. If it wasn't for a guy like Sneed on their team at cornerback, that defense that's pretty bad would be easily the easiest defense to do anything on. Not that it's not already that way. Obviously, Tyrann Mathieu, Chris Jones, and all those guys do help out, but the cornerback spot, it's like he's the only bright spot of that group, it seems, and now he's on the Minnesota Vikings. And then for the last one, you could have made the argument that the Chiefs would have just kept Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but I have them taking a slightly better running back, in my opinion, being J.K. Dobbins. Obviously, the injury really sucks, but Dobbins makes the first round here for the Chiefs. But I can't control who starts who. I've tried to change all the ratings as much as possible. only so much I can do. I just hope as many of these guys start, if not all of them do. And let's get this underway and see what happens. And the Raiders miss at 7-10. Let's take a look at around the league. I don't really think there's too many crazy moves that would have changed everything. The Panthers are apparently better with the same team. The Packers, who did the Packers add? T. Higgins. We'll see how he turned out. The Cowboys, obviously they had Diggs earlier than normal, so they kind of took the L. Tampa, I don't know, that's kind of worse. Obviously they lose Wirfs and they get Onwenu. The Broncos with Jonathan Taylor. Eagles with, who the hell, they had Patrick Queen. It's hard to tell if any of these actually change anything. You know, Cincinnati, same with Burrow. Where did Washington go? Washington was 3-14 with a Herbert. Really? Please tell me they started him, dude. Please tell me they didn't sell. Just don't sell. But let's take a look at Washington for the quarterback. And Herbert did start, but he was not good. 3,800 yards, 25 touchdowns, 20 interceptions. So it's a huge L for Herbert, kind of an L for Washington. It's his first year there, so that's where we're going to, tally it up to. And then we have Detroit with Chase Young. Let's see how he played. And only 5.5 sacks. So all these players so far with their new teams, not looking so great. Now we move on to Wirfs. Obviously, the offensive lineman numbers are always pretty stupid, but let's see if there's anything good about it. And, yeah, it's Madden. 12 sacks allowed there. I guess we'll go to the Dolphins and take a look at the blocking as well. And Mekhi Becton with 17 sacks allowed. Jordan Love with Miami. Not a bad season. Right out there, thrown into the fire with a bad offensive line. Doesn't matter. 30 touchdowns to 10 interceptions, 4,400 yards. Obviously, in real life, we know that would be a different story. And then we had another quarterback, the Chargers, Tua. So what I'm seeing here is Herbert's a bust, and it's all the Chargers roster doing the job. I'm just saying. That's all I'm saying. 4,800 yards, 38 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Absolutely nuts by Tua. And I don't know if they made the playoffs or not, but they should have. The Jaguars with Justin Jefferson, definitely worse than when he's with the Vikings. 1,100 yards, 9 touchdowns. Now we have the Jets with CeeDee Lamb. 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns. Worked out for him. Worked out for the Jets mainly, though. Then we have our Raiders with Judy. 1,100 yards, 6 touchdowns. Really good stuff. Obviously better than Ruggs because, well, I mean, soap simulator. In Tampa, I'm going to be honest, I don't know if they would have even started on Onwenu, but they should have. And no, they did. He just only gave up 1 sack, which is, I mean, pretty good. It's better than Ali Marpet. He must have been the right guard. A good choice, but obviously they would have loved to have Wirfs. Not that it was something they could have chose. A.J. Terrell with the Niners, 83 tackles, no sacks, 1 interception, 3 deflections, 27 catches allowed. As far as, what the numbers normally are, that seems like a really elite season outside of the picks, right? Like, you can't really tell how good a corner is in Madden Sim because they don't give you any freaking stats at all. You now have the Broncos with Jonathan Taylor, who just seems to go off with no matter what team he's on. 1,754 for yards, 5.2 yards per carry with 20 touchdowns. I mean, maybe even a chance at MVP. Oh, did he have no receiving numbers? No, he did. 2 of 2 with 2 touchdowns. Maybe a chance at MVP still, though. Then we have Jalen Johnson on the Falcons. 6 interceptions, 92 tackles. Did allow 61 catches, so if you compare that to A.J. Terrell, obviously, kind of like the Trayvon Diggs type here. Very good, though. And speaking of Trayvon Diggs, we have him on the Cowboys, 89 tackles, 0 interceptions with 51 catches allowed. A bit of a yikes. The Dolphins with Chin kind of seemed like he was playing like a split role. 55 tackles, 1 sack, no interceptions or anything like that, unfortunately. So not really a great year. Let's see Kinlaw. Could he be like the dark horse for this entire thing, right? Who would have expected him to be a part of this in a big way? And 8.5 sacks. I mean, for a DT, that's not terrible. 61 tackles. Pretty good numbers, actually. The Jaguars with Winfield, 0 interceptions, 0 sacks, 68 tackles, 19 catches allowed. I mean, I can't really tell how good he was. Now we have the Eagles of Patrick Queen. Led the team in tackles, 135 of them, 1.5 sacks, 2 interceptions, allowed 65 catches. So can't tell, once again, is that Blake Martinez? Is that Ray Lewis? I don't know. The good thing is it seems like every one of the players started. Like even Cesar Ruiz, 3 sacks allowed on 1,100 downs, pretty much. Pretty good. The Saints, who had Claypool, just over 1,000 yards, 5 touchdowns. Obviously, Thomas is here, which is kind of cheesing, but it is what it is. It's not a big deal. The Niners with Pittman. Not a great year, but that's kind of the year you would expect from Pittman. Not the most fast player in the world, just a clutch catcher you want to get the ball to when you need a huge third down, a huge fourth down. So those numbers could be super misleading, and they could be really elite. If those are all like clutch down situations, or a lot of them are, that's better than 1,000 yards, but it's all like garbage time. As far as T. Higgins goes, I mean, outside of Devontae, that's a pretty good season for a Packers receiver. It seems like the best a Packers receiver gets is like 800 yards at the very best. And then we have the Ravens with Blackman. This definitely would have been a split roll, but we still want to take a look and see if he showed up. 1 pick, 66 yards, nothing, or 66 tackles, nothing crazy. 31 catches allowed. The Titans with Damian Lewis, who I don't know if he would have started. We're about to find out. He did not start, so that's that. The Vikings with Snead, who had 1 interception, 77 tackles, 46 catches allowed. And then the final one being Dobbins, who probably had over 1,000 yards and maybe like 15 touchdowns. He had 15 touchdowns. How did I know? This game is so predictable with this freaking playbook, dude. Just over 1,000, like I said, 15 touchdowns, simply put. Let's take a quick look at MVP. Jonathan Taylor? Where was Jonathan Taylor? Jonathan? Was he really not on the list? That is surprising. Tua, though, at number 6, the only guy on the list that, kind of switched teams. Don't really care too much about the other awards, though. Let's see if any big draft pick changing team wins the Super Bowl. Let's see it. It's probably going to be the Buccaneers and the Chiefs. It's the Packers and the Chiefs. I mean, T. Higgins, would he have been a huge difference maker? Like I said, he's kind of like a better man's Alan Lazard. And the Packers win it all. I mean, it could help that, Wirfs isn't on the Buccaneers, so it's not really about did the resim help the Packers more for their team rather than their opposing team. Like the Wirfs not being on that Buccaneers team obviously hurts them quite a bit. So fair enough, I guess. I mean, I would have liked to see, maybe like Tua win it all, but obviously didn't. Let's see if T. Higgins had like a huge game in the postseason here. And T. Higgins, 108 yards, a touchdown. Being that slow is not bad. But that is going to be the video. Hopefully it wasn't too long. It actually ended up being a lot longer than I was thinking it was going to be. My bad. If we do these in the future, let me know if you want to see them, for 1. And 2, I'll try to get these down to probably 20 minutes at most. And yeah, once again, the big thing is let me know in the comment section below if you A, liked the idea, and B, more importantly, who do you think I messed up on? Because I think there's a couple in here that I would maybe redo. Like, maybe the Chargers don't go Tua, but once again, that was their biggest need by far. The Panthers, instead of Brown, maybe you go Jefferson. Maybe the Jets go Jonathan Taylor instead of CeeDee Lamb. But, I mean, there's a lot of arguments for a lot of players. I think Diggs, there's plenty of arguments for that. Patrick Queen with the Eagles, plenty of arguments there. Dobbins, maybe, with the Chiefs. And then Cesar Ruiz with the Vikings, if I didn't mention that. But overall, I like the list quite a bit. And it is pretty early, I gotta admit. Pretty early to be judging players like this, but overall, we have seen a lot of players come out of the woodwork, and a lot of players just clearly shine ahead of the rest. So I think it's a fair enough video. Maybe we do 2019 next time. Maybe you guys don't like this video at all. We'll see. Anyways, thanks for watching. Hope you guys come back for next video. But until next video, maybe check out the second channel, PK Place. Uploaded GTA last night, I would assume. See ya!